and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. Good to see you as always, Clyde. And to everyone who is with us here live. And I know you said, what kind of title of a session is this? You'll be smarter in 30 minutes. Well, that is what is going to happen, I guarantee. Now, some of the information I'm going to go over in the next few minutes, some of us may be aware of it. Some of us may know it even better than others. Some might even know it better than me. But I do promise that if you, all you got to do is just be here. You don't even have to focus because the information is going to go into your brain and it's going to make you smarter. And I want you to focus on this idea. It's not how smart you are. It's how are you smart? It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart? Because, you know, the reality is that we are all intelligent, okay? But there's different types of intelligences, and we are not, most of the time, taught about them. We don't learn about them, except in abstract. What I'm going to cover in the next couple of minutes is, number one, learning styles. And for those who are not familiar with that, it may sound strange at first. But there are learning styles, ways that we, certain ways in which we learn best, okay? In general, it's agreed that there are basically 7 to 9, at least 7 to 9 learning styles. The three most common are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, in order to learn, we depend on our senses to process the information around us. Most people tend to use one of their senses more than the others. Some people depend on 2 or more types of learning styles, and it's not unusual to use different learning styles for different tasks. So, let's get to it. And this is very important, especially for those who have children. It is important in terms of people who work with other people where, especially if you supervise other people, but even if you work on a team, what you can learn over the next couple of minutes can help you be a better leader and help you help them. Now, first, if you are an auditory learner, you learn by hearing and listening. You understand and remember things you have heard. You store information by the way it sounds, and you have an easier time understanding spoken instructions than ones that are written down. Now, this may sound strange to people who are not auditory, but for those who are auditory, this is going to sound like, yeah, that's right. Okay? Auditory learners often learn by reading out loud because you have to hear it or speak it in order to know it. As an auditory learner, you probably hum or talk to yourself or to others if you become bored. I know somebody right now saying, you know, my son does that, or you know, I know somebody who they hum to themselves and stuff. There's a reason why they're doing that. People may think you're not paying attention, even though you may be hearing and understanding everything that's being said. And see, this can be confusing to others. For an example, if you're an auditory person and you work with somebody who's a visual learner or kinesthetic, which we'll get to in a minute, Um, they may be offended sometimes because they think you're not paying attention because you might be humming or whatever, and you don't learn the same way they do. This is why I'm doing this today, because I think it's important that we understand that everybody doesn't learn the same way. Okay? Here are some things that auditory learners can do to learn better or to accumulate knowledge better. One, they should sit where they can hear, but they needn't pay attention to what is happening in the front. So if it's a classroom or it's a room or whatever, they just need to be able to hear what's going on. They may not coordinate colors or clothes, but they can explain why they're wearing what they're wearing and why. Now that might seem strange, right? But if you're a person, a visual person, you'll hear in a minute, that's important. And so, somebody that we may work with, or a child, or a spouse, or a good friend, they may not coordinate colors well. Uh, Actually, I'm one of those people. I never learned to coordinate colors like, for style and stuff. But I can tell you exactly why I'm wearing what I'm wearing and why I'm wearing it. Okay. Um, let's see. Oh, yeah, acquire knowledge by reading aloud. Auditory learner remembers by verbalizing information to themselves. If they don't, they have difficulty reading maps or diagrams or handling conceptual assignments like mathematics. So they have to verbalize it. One of the things that an auditory person can do to do better is record themselves spelling words and then listening to the recording. I used this with students some years ago, who once we realized that certain students were auditory and visual learners, etc. And I suggested to them, because I'm in broadcasting, that they record themselves spelling words and then listening to the recording. They were amazed at how their spelling improved immediately because they heard it. Okay? So the key for an auditory learner is to remember that they need to hear things, not just see things, in order to learn well. Okay? That's an auditory learner. Now, the visual learner. A visual learner learns by reading or seeing pictures. They understand and remember things by sight. You can picture what you're learning in your head, and you learn best by using methods that are primarily visual. You like to see what you're learning. As a visual learner, you are usually neat and clean. You often close your eyes to visualize or remember something, and you will find something to watch if you become bored. See, as opposed to the auditory learner, they do what? They hum or sing to themselves, right? But a visual learner finds something to watch. Um, the visual learner may have difficulty with spoken directions and may be easily distracted by sounds. See, again, probably some people are hearing this or listening to this or watching this. It may hit you about somebody you know. Might even help you understand yourself, because a visual learner, that's a serious thing. If somebody just gives you verbal instructions, if you don't visualize them, it'll be gone in 60 seconds. And they'll say, well, you didn't understand it? You say, well, I heard you, but I didn't understand you. That's why. Um, and sounds. Like, especially if you have a student in the household, sometimes students, they learn to play music while they're studying and stuff. Some students can do that. Some people cannot. And they'll play the music, but they're not learning anything because the music is distracting them because they're a visual learner. Okay, so they need to know. This is why it's important for people to know what kind of learner they are and which one is primary at the time because it can shift. Okay, visual learners are attracted to color and to spoken language like stories that are rich in imagery. Okay, and understand that they can understand stories, but they have to be rich in imagery so they can see it. Some things that will help a visual learner acquire knowledge better. Now, they need to sit in the front of the room, uh, and they need to visualize what they hear or things that are read to them. They need to visualize it. So it's all right. You can explain to them. Now you just visualize it. It's okay to shut your eyes. Um, they need to write down keywords, ideas, or instructions. In some cases, they might need to write down very copious notes because they need, again, to see them. They may need to draw pictures to help them understand new concepts and then explain the pictures. They may need to color code things. And they prefer stimuli to be isolated from auditory and kinesthetic distractions. That means if they're really trying to study something, they need to do it in a quiet environment where they can focus on reading. And they find passive surroundings ideal, meaning no music and all of that. So the visual learner needs to remember that they need to see things, not just hear things, in order to learn well. All right? Now, the third major is, there's two words that I use, is tactile or kinesthetic. Tactile or kinesthetic. You'll see both words. Now, if a person is a tactile learner, you learn by touching and doing. You understand and remember things through physical movement. You're a hands-on learner who prefers to touch, move, build, or draw what you learn, and you tend to learn better when some type of physical activity is involved. And this is a very important difference. That's very important in the public school system in America, and I'll tell you why. Because in most situations, a student is required to sit and learn in a sitting position in a room with somebody, most of the time, lecturing them. Okay? And this kinesthetic or tactile learner, they need hands on, they need to be able to move. Tactile learners, they need to be active and take frequent breaks. They don't have to be long breaks, but they do need to take frequent breaks. They often speak with their hands and with gestures, and the tactile learner may have difficulty sitting still. You understand the difference? Very important. As a tactile learner, you like to take things apart and put things together, and you tend to find reasons to tinker or move things that were done, but may have difficulty remembering what you saw or heard in the process. You often communicate by touching, and you appreciate physically expressed forms of encouragement, such as a pat on the back. Okay? Now, we got to remember this because no matter what age, we're in this so-called Me Too movement era. And if you are a kinesthetic or tactile learner, you appreciate a pat on the back, but you may also, because you appreciate it, you may assume that others do too. And so, if you're dealing with somebody who is a visual learner and you pat them on the back because of something that they may have done or said or whatever, they may consider that to be an offense because they're not kinesthetic. Okay? See, it's things we need to learn about this so we can make sure that we don't accidentally offend other people and learn how to express in such a way that they aren't offended and find out how they do best respond. Some things that tactile learners can do. They need to be able to participate in activities that involve touching, building, moving, or drawing. Do lots of hands-on activities like completing art projects, taking walks, or acting out stories. It's okay to chew gum, walk around, or rock in a chair while reading or studying. Think about that. Because they're kinesthetic, right? They can't sit still the same as most other people. So what does it say? If they chew gum, it's all right because that's an activity, it's a physical activity. It helps them to absorb the information. They might be rocking in a chair. And for some people, that might be very disturbing. Stop rocking in that chair. But for them, that works very well for them to be able to absorb the information. Here's one for young people as well as older people. Trace words with your finger to learn spelling. Now, that might seem very strange, right? But if they can trace the words, trace the letters, they're feeling it. That's the tactile sensation. It's called finger spelling, okay? It actually is something that's real, finger spelling. And it works very well with kinesthetic learners, tactile learners. They need to take frequent breaks during reading or studying periods, frequent but not long. And here's another one that a kinesthetic person might do. They may tap a pencil, shake their foot, or hold on to something while they're studying. Again, something that might seem strange to others, but it allows them to do better. For an example, if it's a job test, they may need to be able to hold on to something while they're doing the test because that helps them to be able to do better, to recall information. Um, Activities such as cooking, construction, engineering, and art help a kinesthetic learner to perceive and learn. They enjoy field trips and tasks that involve manipulating materials. They are uncomfortable in situations where they lack opportunities for hands-on experience. And that's very important. If they're stuck in a room or a situation where they are forced to either just listen or just reading, it's for them, it's like torture because they can't do anything hands-on, and they're not getting the concept, they're not getting that information. So it's best that they remember they learn best by doing not just by reading, seeing, or hearing. All right. Now those are the three main areas. And now I'm gonna get a little deeper so that you can get. Now you're already getting smarter, and it ain't been 30 minutes yet. um, but let's understand something, because this can make such a difference for you or your child or your mate or a friend or a workmate. This is where it gets deep. There are what we call intelligences. Now, in general, it's considered that there are at least 8. I'm going to go actually into 9. And in fact, the last one, I'm going to say in advance, Clyde, you're going to like this one, because the 9th one, because it's not usually talked about, it's not usually included, but I think it's overlooked and might be on purpose. Okay, but at least the 8 that are generally agreed on are visual, spatial, logical, mathematical, linguistic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, musical, bodily, kinesthetic, and spiritual or naturalist. Okay, but I'm going to tell you the 9th one when we get there. All right, now visual, spatial. See, draw, visualize, and mind mapping. Visual spatial intelligence makes it possible for people to perceive visual or spatial information, to transform this information, and to recreate visual images from memory. Well-developed spatial capacities are needed for the work of architects, sculptors, and engineers. And see, this was quite frustrating for me when I was much younger, because I didn't understand why I cannot draw very well. Okay? Um, and it's because I don't have a well developed visual spatial intelligence. Doesn't mean I'm dumb. It just means that my intelligences may be focused in several of the others. And these did not get, and the visual spatial didn't get well developed. The students who turned first to the graphs and the charts and pictures in their textbooks, the people who like to web their ideas before writing a paper, and who fill the blank space around their notes with intricate patterns, are also using their spatial intelligence. While usually tied to the visual modality, spatial intelligence can also be exercised to a high level by individuals who are visually impaired. Now, we happen to have somebody in our community who is visually impaired, and she is amazing with her ability to exercise a spatial intelligence, and that's River. River designs websites. Yeah, and she's a ferocious writer. I mean, she can knock out thousands of words in a short period of time. I'm like, wow, where'd you get all the words from? For those that don't know, River has written, what, 3 or 4 books? She's amazing. All right, there are people with well-developed spatial visual intelligence enjoy drawing, designing, looking at pictures and images, slides, videos, and films. They are especially proficient at imaging, visualization, sensing changes, doing puzzles, and reading charts and maps. They absorb information best through visualizing, using the mind's eye, and by manipulating and working with pictures and images. Okay? Um, Visual and spatial intelligence perceives objects accurately, relies on sight and ability to visualize, forming mental pictures, imaging, able to manipulate mental images and represent things graphically. Preferred activities, guided imagery, collages, labeling, pictures, and pretending. Ain't that something? Now, the next area is what we call mathematics logic. Mathematic and logical. People who are able to quantify, think it, and conceptualize it. Logical mathematical intelligence enables individuals to use and appreciate abstract relations. Now, you just saw a graphic of a Rubik's Cube, and I know you've probably seen somebody who is able to just knock that out quick. They can just and they have put the Rubik's Cube in order. I once saw a blind guy do it. Okay, people who can do that, they have extremely well developed mathematical or logical intelligences. Scientists, mathematicians, and philosophers all rely on this intelligence. People who are like, somebody who they know all about the baseball statistics or football statistics. They're good at that. People who carefully analyze the components of problems, uh, and then they can systematically test solutions. People with well developed logical mathematical intelligence are sensitive to logical patterns and relationships, to functions, propositions, and hypotheses. They can easily use categorization, classification, inference, generalization, and calculation. They're natural critical thinkers, and they can handle long chains of reasoning. They are extremely good chess players. When they learn how to play chess, oh yeah, yeah. The thing about chess, which I learned to play some years ago, it's not just being able to figure out a good move. The thing with chess is you have to be able to figure out a good 100 moves and be able to see down the road. Okay? So when your opponent makes a move, you have to be able to see that move in relationship not just to right now, but what is the logical mathematical um, opportunity of that move, as well as the consequence of that move 10 moves from now, 15, 20, 30 moves from now. Yeah. Okay. Now, mathematical, logical intelligence users, they like to figure things out by asking questions, exploring, and finding the order and logic in the content of something. They work well with numbers, deductive and inductive thinking. If you don't know what that means, you better look it up. Recognize abstract patterns, and they can perform complex calculations, and they're able to reason scientifically. Yeah. Now, we tend to notice people like that maybe more than others, and we tend to think, oh, he's a genius. We all have genius. It's just that we have to find the ways in which they are expressed the best. Mathematical or logical intelligence is one that we see a lot of in everyday activities where people can stand out. Okay? But it doesn't mean you're any less smarter than them. Doesn't mean you're any less intelligent than them. Now, the next level is linguistic. Read, write, talk about it, and listen to it. Linguistic intelligence allows individuals to communicate and make sense of the world through language. Poets exemplify this intelligence in its mature form. People who enjoy playing with rhymes, who pun, who always have a story to tell, who quickly acquire other languages, including sign language, all exhibit linguistic intelligence. People with well developed linguistic intelligence find their fullest identity in writing or in verbal storytelling. They are articulate, accurate spellers, and avid readers. They often think in words and learn well uh, by listening to others speak, by reading, by writing, and verbalizing. They like to play with language, are good at remembering names, places, dates, and trivia. And if these people are given the opportunity to hear, see, and say words associated with something, um, they can pick that up for good. Uh, they can analyze their own use of language, have a good memory, understand grammar well. Preferred activities: creative writing, reading, explanations, journal writing, biographies, feelings, and reports. Now remember what I said, that you can have several of these can be strong, and you may use one in certain tasks, and then with a different task, utilize another one. So understand that it's not just having one. We have all of them, but some are well developed, some are not developed, some are kind of developed. Okay? All right, that was linguistic. Now here's one where when I learned about this, it helped me to understand something I was really kind of down on myself about. Bodily kinesthetic. Bodily kinesthetic. Bodily kinesthetic or body kinesthetic intelligence allows individuals to use all or part of the body to create products or solve problems. Athletes, surgeons, dancers, choreographers, craftspeople all use bodily kinesthetic intelligence. The capacity is also evident in people who relish going to the gym, and people who love to dance, who prefer to carry out projects by making models rather than writing reports. See the difference? Now, if you ever work with somebody who they can make a model of something easily, uh, whereas you might be visual spatial, or you might be linguistic, uh, might be mathematical and logical. You don't, whatever it is, you're different than that person who they're always moving. They're very able to use their bodies. Um, let's see. Yeah, one of the ways that you can tell somebody is bodily kinesthetic strong is somebody, if you're in an office and there's somebody who loves to be able to, with trash, to ball up a paper and hit the basket, the trash basket, and they do this on a regular basis. That's a way for them to deal with stress and what have you. But that's telling you something about them. People who, with well developed bodily kinesthetic intelligence, possess, or no, they process information through their bodily sensations and they learn best by touching, manipulating, and moving. They often have a natural sense of how their body should act and react in demanding physical situations. Learning is best facilitated by, by providing a kinetic component, allowing them to interact with space in some way to help them process and remember the new information through their body. It may sound strange, but it is how that works. If you have ever uh, been in athletics, whether it's school or afterwards or just as a hobby, um, there's some people who are just they seem just to be a natural at playing basketball, football, or soccer, or what have you, or exercising, bodybuilders, things like that. And you say, wow, how are they able to just to do that so smooth and stuff, right? They have strong bodily kinesthetic intelligence. See, it's not a mystery, it's just understanding what they can do. They have good awareness and control of their body movements. They have a good wisdom of bodily movements and can connect mind and body. So their preferred activities: dancing, acting, drama, role playing, inventing, physical gestures. Rappers have some good rappers have good kinesthetic or bodily kinesthetic intelligence. You ever see them move on stage? Some are very good at moving on stage, right? Some aren't. The ones that are good, and that's why they have strong bodily kinesthetic intelligence. All right, musical. Yeah, this is a serious one here. Musical. Musical intelligence allows people to create, communicate, and understand meanings made out of sound. Let me say that again. Musical intelligence allows people to create, communicate, and understand meanings made out of sound. While composers and instrumentalists clearly exhibit this intelligence, so do others who seem particularly attracted by the birds singing outside or who constantly tap out intricate rhythms on their desk with their pencils. You know somebody like that? Yeah. People with well developed musical intelligence excel at remembering melody, noticing the rhythms of life, and usually keep perfect time. They are hummers of tunes, singers of songs, probably play an instrument, and often listen to music. These learners get new information by listening to melodies, writing musical notations, or in using rhythms to help them master new concepts. They are able to hear music and rhythm accurately, to remember, master, and eventually produce musical sequences. And these people possess a sensitivity to tone and sound, and also a sensitivity to the structure of music. Now, I firmly believe this about myself, that had I been able to, when I was much, much younger, acquire an education, a music education, I think I would have been quite a musical prodigy because I had the music in me. Uh, I've been an air musician my whole life. Started out when I was listening to Stevie Wonder play fingertips, and I started playing air piano. But I love to sing it, and I love to listen to it. So I have a strong musical intelligence. It's just not well developed. So the only instrument I can play is my mouth. In terms of real instruments, I took 8 weeks of French horn in high school to graduate. So again, don't feel bad. Just understand that when it's well developed, that's what you see when you see a musician. Okay, now here's where we get into a couple of areas that are really interesting. I'm almost finished. This is called interpersonal interpersonal intelligence. Inter um, interaction, cooperative learning, very social. Interpersonal intelligence enables individuals to recognize and make distinctions about others' feelings and intentions. Teachers, parents, politicians, psychologists, and salespeople rely on interpersonal intelligence a lot. Uh, People exhibit this intelligence when they thrive on small group work, when they notice and react to the moods of their friends and coworkers, and when they tactfully convince others of their need for extra time to complete their work assignment. Okay? People with well developed interpersonal intelligence have a strong sense of empathy and concern for others. They're often natural leaders and take others beneath their wings. They're almost always with a group of people and have a wide circle of friends and acquaintances. They like to talk with others, to teach others, and um, to organize, mediate, and communicate in group activities. They generally understand people and instinctively know how to work with them. And so they learn best when they are given opportunity to interview others, share ideas, and to cooperate and collaborate to complete any tasks. All right? That's interpersonal intelligence. And I know you know people like that. In fact, you're probably a person like that if you're a leader at work or in your profession. You know how important it is to communicate with others. Now, what's the next one? The next one is intrapersonal. Intrapersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is connected to personal life, making choices, independent. Intrapersonal intelligence helps individuals to distinguish among their own feelings, to build accurate mental models of themselves, and to draw on these models to make decisions about their lives. Although it is difficult to assess who has this capacity and to what degree, evidence can be sought in a person's usage of their other intelligences, how well they seem to be capitalizing on their strengths, how cognizant they are of their weaknesses, and how thoughtful they are about the decisions and choices they make. Now, share with you this, because this is okay. Oh, Clyde, you said you experienced that with groupthink project group. Oh, okay, yeah, with interpersonal, yeah. Now the intrapersonal. This one is interesting because as it says it's sometimes difficult to assess that ability. I from what I learned over the years is that I apparently have an extremely well developed intrapersonal intelligence because I'm very self aware and extremely good at self management, self regulation, self discipline. And I don't have a problem with being alone. Okay. Um, some say, well, it just means you're weird. No. I can be alone. It doesn't bother me. As well as I can be with people. But I should say this: I like being with people who have similar interests. Um, I have been at times uncomfortable with people. Let me just put it like this: if I'm around white people who have not really spent much time with black people, that makes me very uncomfortable. Okay. And so I will usually try to get out of that situation as soon as possible. Now, some would say, well, that's racist, Harold. No, it's not racist to me. Because if you're in a group of white people who don't know very much about black people, they will almost always do or say things that are going to um, make the average black person uncomfortable. Somebody's gonna say something racist, and they won't necessarily realize how racist it is. They might even make jokes, and others will laugh, and you're saying to yourself, "Don't you realize what you're saying?" I'll show you how that works. You might have a group of white people. You might be the only black person in the group. So they're conscious of you being there. So the person who's like the jokester, they won't tell a black joke. They'll tell a Mexican joke, or they'll tell a Jew joke, or they'll tell a blonde joke, right? And you're supposed to laugh along with the rest of them. But if I don't care if you tell a Jew joke, or a blonde joke, or a Mexican joke, and it's insulting to people, it's not funny to me, and I'm not going to laugh. In fact, I'm probably going to say, "Excuse me, but I find that offensive, and you really might want to think about that, you know." And then they'll look at you like, "Well, you're not Mexican or blonde or Jewish. Why do you care?" You see? But that's how they pull you into their environment and make you end up co-signing their stuff. So, and as soon as you're gone, then somebody gonna tell a black joke. But anyway, that's intrapersonal. Intrapersonal. Okay? Self awareness, self regulation, and self management. All right. Now, this is the eighth one: natural or naturalist and spiritual. They use the words interchangeably: spiritual or naturalist. In this case, this allows people to distinguish among, classify, and use features of the environment. Farmers, gardeners, botanists, geologists, florists, archaeologists, they all exhibit this intelligence, as well as people who can name and describe the features of every make of car around them. When I was coming up, there was always somebody who was just extremely good at that. In fact, it was a car game, a traveling car game to try and name the cars, and somebody would always be very good at that. These type of people find it easy to categorize plant names and recognize animals. Their preferred activities: history, philosophy, religion, botany, and geology, among others. Now, those are the intelligences. Now, I said there were eight that are in general, but I said I was going to deal with nine. The ninth one, and this is the one that I always think about Clyde. The existential intelligence. Now you won't find this on most of the situations where they talk about the intelligences, but it is recognized, the existential intelligence, the question smart as they call it. Um, People with a well-developed existential intelligence, they're able to tackle deep questions about human existence, such as the meaning of life, why do we die, and how the world came into being. They like those deep questions. Psychologists, poets, novelists, artists, teachers, they may have that quality well developed, as well as, and I will include um, philosophers and ministers. Now, I'm not going to say preachers, but when I say ministers, uh, these are people who may seriously work within their faith, and they can share their faith without pushing it on people. It's one of the things I love about Clyde. He has his um, he has very strong faith, and he doesn't. At least I've never seen him push it on anybody. But he shares the knowledge of his faith um, easily, and allows you to think. The nature of God, why we're here, why the world exists, the meaning of life and death, and you don't even realize he's sharing that because he does it in such a smooth way. But that's because I believe he has a very strong, very well developed existential intelligence. Existential. So, um, as we close out here, I then say that there are at least 9 types of intelligence. And so, as I close out, I'm going to leave it easy that you can come back and study these and figure out what works best for you. And as always, I say no justice, no peace, no love, KNOW.